Hello students, Mr. Young here. Remember when we had that lesson last chapter called Constitution 101 with Mr. Young? Well, this will basically be Constitution 201. We're diving a little deeper, and I know it's not as exciting as, say, George Washington wrestling King George in a winner-takes-all death match, but it is nonetheless exceptionally important to know your rights. It's hard to take away rights from people that know them. But taking rights from a population that they aren't even aware of is like taking candy from a baby. So pay attention and learn this stuff. It's important. Be the informed electorate that our nation requires to succeed. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. Constitution. So there are 7 key principles to the Constitution. Today we're going to learn about these 7 principles and what they mean. We're going to start off with what is called popular sovereignty. So the preamble, or as we learn, that means introduction of the Constitution, starts like this. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That we the people part is key to popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty means that it is the citizens that are in charge. It means authority of the people. I know it doesn't seem like that sometimes, but never forget that the government works for us. We hire them and we fire them. Second principle, republic. A republic simply means the same thing as representative government. Republicanism and representative government are synonymous. They are the same. That means that we don't run the government personally, but we vote for people that most closely align with how we would want things run, and then they govern in our stead. So that's a republic. Limited government. A limited government is a government whose only powers are given to it by the people. They are strictly defined, and this is to prevent the government from taking away people's rights. As you may imagine, the framers of the Constitution had the actions of Britain right before the Revolution in mind when creating a republic with limited government. So they basically seen overreach, and so they wanted to prevent overreach when they established the federal government of the United States. Federalism. Now we talked about federalism in the last chapter. We said it means that there are multiple governments, basically state and federal, and even local, all working together. We mentioned each has its own powers, but some are shared. These powers all have different names, but that we're going to learn today. Here's a Venn diagram. We had one in the last chapter, but we're going to more specifically talk about these powers. So enumerated powers are powers specifically given to the federal government in the Constitution. State governments do not have these powers. Examples would be coining money and maintaining the armed forces. Reserved powers are powers that belong to the states. They are reserved for the states and not powers that the federal government can exercise. They're not actually listed in the Constitution, but given with the 10th Amendment or change to the Constitution. Which states? The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Examples of reserved powers would be setting up schools, trade within the state, and things like marriage law. Concurrent powers are the powers shared by the state and federal government. We mentioned that examples of these powers would be taxes, also carrying out the law, and even borrowing money. Mr. Young will unabashedly note that the state and federal governments seem really good at exercising their concurrent powers, as well practiced they are. The next principle, separation of powers. Now we already said that the separation of powers means that there are 3 different branches of government and that they all have different jobs to perform. This prevents any part of government from becoming too powerful. We have the graphic here. It looks somewhat familiar. We're actually going to talk about these branches more specifically in lesson 2 of this chapter. Checks and balances. We also talked about checks and balances and how that means each of the above branches has a bit of say in the other branch's business. This further spreads the power of government and prevents any branch from becoming too powerful. For example, Congress, we learned, make laws, but these laws have to be signed and approved by the president. And once approved by the president, the court can decide if it is basically legal, unconstitutional. We can take a look at more checks and balances down here. Things like the president can veto a law, but the president also can appoint federal judges for life, but these appointments have to be approved by the legislative branch. So everyone's got their hands in everyone else's business to keep the balance of power in the government. Now our last principle we're going to talk about is individual rights. And this little subsection basically covers what we call the Bill of Rights. We haven't really learned a whole lot about yet. You will recall that a few states only ratified the Constitution under the stipulation that a Bill of Rights be added post haste. That is to say, very quickly. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. Here are some of the individual rights guaranteed to all citizens. Pay attention. These are your rights too. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech and the press, freedom to assemble in groups, and protest against the government. A right to bear arms, the right to speedy and public trial by jury, freedom from cruel and unusual punishment. These are just some of the big ones. Other amendments have been made since then. The Constitution is over 200 years old, but it's only been amended 27 times, including those first 10 amendments. So really, since the Bill of Rights, only 17 amendments have been added. The last time an amendment was added was 1992. Amendments cover a number of topics, everything from fleeing enslaved persons to suffrage for women, that is, the right of women to vote. Alright, so there's another subsection in this lesson all about the amendment process, but I thought we covered enough for today, so we'll just tack that on tomorrow's lesson, which is shorter. So let's go ahead and check out your assignment real quick. Okay, so I have 3 questions here. In the lesson, we cover some hefty topics. Please answer the following questions with complete sentences. According to the Constitution and the principle of popular sovereignty, who is in charge of the United States? What does limited government mean? And what is federalism? You see, each question is worth 3 points, with your complete sentences, spelling, and grammar being worth 1 point. And that's it for the day. Tomorrow we move on to the amendment process, as well as more specifics on each branch of government, that being the executive, judicial, and legislative branch. We're also going to talk about what it means to be a citizen. That's it for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Otherwise, have a glorious and patriotic day.